All right. Hello and welcome back to another Gumloop webinar. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Aaron Corbett. I'm the head of community and education at Gumloop. And we've got quite the crowd today. So welcome. If this is your first time joining, really appreciate. Make sure you tell me where you're joining from in the chat. Let me see who we got here. We got San from Detroit. Welcome. Appreciate you joining. We got a lot of folks from Texas. Always great to see folks from all over the world. For Carbon Construct, it's 3 a.m. That's a lot of pressure. I really hope that I can keep your attention even at 3 a.m. I hope this is worth your while. I really am. We got Bruce from Florida. Really excited. Really appreciate all of you joining. And we're going to talk about our new partnership with Apify and how you can grab data directly into Gumloop and just show you an example of what's possible. We're going to imagine we want to monitor what's being said about Gumloop on TikTok and YouTube. And this is just one example. So last week, we talked about the partnership with Apollo, which lets you grab business information and contact details. This week, we're partnering with Apify to give you additional actors, right? Grab data sources you can grab in Gumloop. So if you're a company that starts with AP and provides data, we are ready to partner with you. But super excited to have you all here joining. And yeah, before we jump in, we're going to kind of build a flow. There's a lot of moments in this flow where the AI has to think. So I'd love to know, what would you want us to do while the AI is thinking? Obviously, I can answer your questions. I can go through the chat, but I'd love to hear some ideas. Maybe we put up quizzes, fun facts, best idea that drops in the chat. I'll send over 10, 15,000 credits. Would love to hear how we make these webinars more engaging and more fun, especially as we're waiting for the AI to respond. Okay. All right. Got a bunch of other folks. O'Hearn from Tampa Bay, Paul from Cincinnati. Got folks suggesting Aaron dance moves. That's because you've never seen me dance. That would instantly drop our viewership by about 75% for sure. Okay. Keep the ideas coming in the chat. Love to see it. Okay. Let's talk about what our goal is for today. Let me jump into my little, you should see. There we go. Let's go right here. Okay. So our goal is to build this right here. So someone's going to input a query, right? That's going to be like what I want to search for, what I want to analyze. And then we're automatically going to get a report. That report is going to analyze two things. It's going to look at what is being said about that query on TikTok and YouTube. Those are two of the 5 different integrations we have with Apify, some of their most common actors: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Google Maps, and I'm missing, and one more that will come back to me. Cool. So Juan asked, will this be on YouTube? Yes, absolutely. Instantly live on YouTube. No problem. Cool. So what is the flow? Now, you notice if you were here last week, I always start with a little overview of what we're going to build. So we're going to have someone enter a query. This is what we want to track online, your brand, your competitor's brand. That's really up to you. Then we're going to go get a YouTube report. It's going to go and do that query in YouTube, understand what's being said, and then do the same thing for TikTok. And both of those will output into a Google Doc that we are going to analyze and read. And now, obviously, you have full control over what you want to analyze. I've just made this tell me a little bit about what's positive and negative about this specific brand. Obviously, we're going to use Gumloop and then output that into a Google Doc. Now, remember, if you were here last week, again, I like to build small pieces of reusable automations. So if we look at what do I want each one of those reports to look like from a step-by-step approach. So first I want to search, right? So this is going to be the input. This is going to be the query, Gumloop in our case. Then we're going to use Apify to get that information, to get TikTok, to get the YouTube information that we need. Then I'm going to have AI analyze that, especially if it's a video. I want it to watch through and tell me what's going on in the video. And then all of those analyses I'm going to put together to give me an AI report. So walking through this, we're going to go to Gumloop in TikTok, for instance. It's going to get maybe 10, 15 videos that are related, analyze each one, take the analysis of each one, write a report. And that's what it's going to send back over here. And we're going to put both of those together in a Google Doc. So some ideas from the chat, maybe some clean jokes from AI. Absolutely. We could definitely do that. Yeah. So maybe some thoughts fun facts. People seem to love some fun facts. Yeah, let's I'll answer your questions, and if there are more, I'll drop some fun facts about Gumloop or just generally. Keep the ideas coming. Cool. So let's start building. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to start building. So in Gumloop, you build flows. Flows are kind of executions of a variety of steps. If you look at this, this would be a flow. And each one of these, each step in your automation is a node. These are the individual steps that you want to take. So often your workflow in your business takes a series of steps that you need to make. Often those will map to specific nodes. Now, just like last week, we're going to start with an input node. This is going to be the query, the search we want to do. We're going to start with TikTok. That's going to be our first kind of Apify actor that we're going to use. So I'm going to call this query. And what do I want to search? Now, this is saying our default value. This is what we're going to test with. I'm going to test with Gumloop. And that's also what I'm going to run with. But if you have ideas of what we want to build or what you want to search on, let me know in the chat. Happy to use that as an example. So there's a question, should I try to build along? Up to you. I recommend not to build along. Watch me, because it takes about 5 minutes to build if I'm not explaining. But if you're comfortable building along, that should be fine too. And I'm going to share the template after as well in the description and in the email I send to everyone who RSVP'd. Cool. Okay, so if I go back here to our little, so we have, what we're searching on. Now, what we want to do is to go ahead and get the content. That's going to be using our new partnership with Apify. So in our case, I want to go to TikTok. So I'm going to go search for TikTok in my nodes. And then I have an MCP node. So MCP nodes allow you to prompt what you want them to do. So this is a much easier way to kind of build nodes that do specifically what you want to do. I'm going to keep it simple by saying, given a hashtag, return videos of that hashtag. But you can even say, hey, given a hashtag, return videos and their creators. Or give me the number of followers. I'm going to provide to you a profile. Give me the number of followers or the last 10 videos. You can prompt what you want the data to be. And AI is going to work with you, Gummy in our case, to build that specific node. Cool. So I'm going to say, given a hashtag, return videos for that hashtag. So I'm essentially prompting exactly what I wanted to do. And now Gummy, our AI is going to be like, okay, let me understand what the inputs, parameters, and outputs of your node are. And we're going to agree on that. And then it's going to write the code to execute this specific thing. So if you've ever had to work with Apify, that means understanding API calls and different elements. We're going to abstract all of that and let you just prompt what you need to do. Now it's given me a lot. So it's saying, okay, I'm going to take as input a hashtag. You're going to give you the number of results. We're going to keep it low just so we're not spending a lot of time sharing fun facts. Then how do you want me to filter? And then how do you want me to sort? And these are all the optionals. So our AI understands how Apify returns the data and is saying, based on your prompt, this is my understanding of the node you want to build. This sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and generate the code. What this is doing is now writing all the different code. We should see it appear at the top here, and it's going to query and retrieve the data. So when you're building MCP nodes, you're essentially saying, we're going to configure this once. And once I'm happy with the output, once I'm happy with what you're doing, I can use this in any of my flows. So you see it's writing the code right now. I don't understand any of this. That's totally okay, right? It's just showing you if you ever need to. Now we have our node. I'm going to use Gumloop again, and I'm just going to grab 2 videos. As an example, I don't want to filter, and I want to include video links. That way we can pass them over to AI to analyze. Now, when you're building an MCP node, you only have to test it once, so you're always happy with the output. And now let's run the test. So I imagine you're saying that I don't understand the code. Yeah, no problem. So Tone asks, is this available later? Yeah, it's actually instantly available. All of our webinars are instantly available on YouTube. You can even scrub back right now, and we're going to keep this URL so you can watch back or watch any moment that you missed and want to see again. Okay, no fun facts. I was able to answer your question. Okay, so now we have the output of our search, right? So it's a big blob of text, right? So it's telling me what language, when it was created, who made the video. There's like a bunch of information here, right? So there's a great question from Anne Marie that says, do you need to connect your TikTok? No. So Apify is actually doing the work to grab the information for you. So it's essentially saying, what do you want to search for? We're going to go and find that information. This is unrelated to your TikTok account. And not only that, but you're using Gumloop credits. So you don't need an Apify account. You really just need a Gumloop account, and you're using our agreement with Apify to be able to run these queries, right? Exactly. So it'll allow you to retrieve data from Apify, not necessarily post. That's a question from ToneMine. Okay, so now I have my little node, my beautiful node, that what it does, I give it a query, what I wanted to search for. So this is essentially going to TikTok search, entering the query Gumloop, and returning the number of videos that I ask it to return. So let's finalize the node. I'm actually just going to copy this JSON so we can see. Let me just copy it like that. Let's finalize the node. And now let's call it, I'm going to call this live so I can differentiate it. So TikTok hashtag videos, get videos from TikTok hashtag. We're saving that node, and boom. Now we have our kind of exact TikTok node that we want. So we're going to grab this. So in Gumloop, I want to pass the query from the input into this right here, the hashtag. So I need to do two things. I need to connect the nodes together and to say, okay, this is the hashtag. So if we were to change this, it's going to change this. Now, if we go back to our interface, we're then going to connect it to this. So whatever the person enters here is going to be passed into this. It's going to be passed into this. I'm just going to grab two videos. Again, just so it goes a little faster. We're not going to filter, and we're going to include video links. Now, I've run this before, and I know that this is going to output a very long JSON. Let me actually paste it right here, just as an example. Right, so there's like a lot of data here, a little too much. What I need from this is the media URL. So I know this, I've played around with this a little bit. This is what I want to extract. If I go here, this is an example of a video. And this is what I want AI to analyze. If we go back to our little webinar, we're getting the content, right? So now Apify is grabbing that content, and I want AI to analyze it. So I need to pass the URL to the AI, but first I need to grab it. I need to grab it out of that big JSON. So what we're going to do here, and I could have prompted the node to change this, but I like showing you the different ways you can use AI in Gumloop. We're going to extract data. So this is essentially saying, take that big blob of text from Apify, like that, right? It's going into loop mode because we have multiple videos. That's why you'll see here, we have this little loop, right? So we have multiple videos. Then what do I want to extract? I want to grab the media URL. So let me zoom in here a little bit. So essentially from this big blob of text, extract the media URL. Now purists, obviously you're going to say, why are you using AI for this? I'm lazy, to be honest. I don't want to learn regex. That's been a life goal, to never actually learn regex or regex or whatever you call it. So now I want to say extract the media URL from the JSON, output as string only. Now, how would you have known this? You probably could have just prompted right here in hashtag only give me the link to the actual video so an AI can analyze. That would have been totally okay. There are different ways to get to the same goal in Gumloop. Okay, I'm going to run this. It's going to take a few, maybe like a minute and a half to run. We're going to keep building as this is running. So let me save this. Let me run. And let me go through some questions if there are any. So what's the benefit of retrieving data, or what type of data? So question. So really, this is essentially saying if you want any TikTok data, YouTube data, Instagram, whether it's profile information, comments, you can simply include them into your workflows. Okay, that was much faster than I thought. Okay, so now we have are two URLs from the two videos that we've gotten. You can go up to 10, 20, 100, no problem. I just don't want to make you wait 10 minutes as that is happening. So where are we in our flow? We're querying, we're getting the TikTok information live. Really got to fix the lights in the studio. We're extracting the URL. Now we can have AI analyze each one of this. We want it to go here, go to this URL, and analyze that specific video. So we're going to use the video analyzer. That's another AI node. So in Gumloop, you can use AI natively, right? So what we're saying is you can grab an AI analyzer video if you're working with video specifically. It's going to go and watch through, and it defaults to the models that can analyze video. So we're going to go here. We are going to pass in the URL. So we're going to use link. Passing in, oops, got to actually turn it on. There we go. And where's our prompt? So I'm going to say, describe what happens in this video. This will be then sent for analysis by a social media manager. So highlight any positive or negative sentiment about the brand or tool in the video. So we can prompt and tell the AI what to look for specific. If you're working with for competitor tracking, or you want to kind of understand what people are being said, you can give that in the prompt specifically, right? Now we have a prompt, a query, getting the videos, we're getting the URL, we're passing the URL to analyze. Let me resume the flow. This is just so we're not running everything. So just a pro tip here, if you've already run a flow, you can resume from any node. So we're going to resume from the previous node. That's going to save us some time. Great. So now it's analyzing, and we're going to have a video analysis in a moment. And let's continue here. So now I have multiple video analyses coming from here, right? And I want them to write me a report. Remember, our goal here is to write this report. So I have multiple analyses of video. I want one report. We're going to need to smush. If you've not worked with Gumloop, we have a whole course about when to loop and when to smush. I cannot pass 3 separate analyses into ChatGPT. I can only pass one. So I'm going to join list items. If folks have done a cohort at Gumloop, I'm sure you've heard me say smushing. I want to bring this list, right? So these 2 analyses, let's go. We now have them. We have a video description of the, pretty cool, right? I know we do this as if like that's normal, but this was pretty cool. AI just watched the video for me and gave me takeaways, and it watched the other 2. Now I want to bring all of those analyses into one big blob of text for the AI to write me a report. So I'm going to smush. I'm passing in a list. It's going to output just some text. And that's when I'm going to go into the Ask AI. Let's go into Ask AI right here. And this is as if we're talking to ChatGPT. Boom. So what do I want? Now I'm going to connect this. Now I can pass in the analyses. Now, pro tip, you can write your own prompts. What I always like to do is to ask AI to actually write the prompt for me. And the reason I do that is going to be much more detailed, and it gives me something to start with and adjust versus just kind of trying out things. Now, often what I see people is they write very simple prompts and don't quite get the format that they want. So we can go to Gummy and say, always be nice to the AI. So, hey, Gummy, can you write me a prompt that takes as input analyses about social media videos about a brand and outputs in analysis a report for a social media manager highlighting positive and negative mentions of the brand and anything else they may want to see. So what's great about using Gummy is that Gummy also understands the flow that you're running. It understands the different steps, and it's going to use that in its response. So if there's something you need to do to kind of connect information together, it's going to give you that information. Gummy, I say, is like me, but probably better in Gumloop, like live, always available, right? So I can now take this. So you're a social media analyst. Then it's even telling you right here, insert your join video analyses here. And it understands that you did that in the previous step. So you see to connect the join text output from your join list items. So Gummy understands what you're building and helps you build throughout. So let's grab this. And now a pro tip that was actually shared to me by a Gumloop user. I did not know about this. When pasting, if you do Command-Shift-V, it'll keep the formatting. So let's do that. There we go. Command-Shift-V. Isn't that great? Shout out to the user who told me that. So I learn as much from you as you do from me, hopefully. Now we're going to go right here. It even told me where it wants that. So let's go. Windows users, I think it would be Control-Shift-V. But too quick. It's basically paste formatting. So whatever your shortcut is for paste formatting, that should work. Okay, so you are social media. Then we're going to have a report. And I'm going to say output the report as markdown, because we are going to paste this over to, not paste this over, we're going to send it over to Google Docs, which can read markdown. Now the last step is we're going to output that report. So we're going to call this TikTok report. We're passing in right here. So what does this do? Let me format this new feature as well. You can now format nodes. Takes a query, goes to TikTok, extracts the URLs, then analyzes each one of those, understands what's being said, smooshes them together, has AI write me a report based on those videos, and then we can output. So then this is what we're going to reuse when we get here, right? So we're going to take the query, which is provided in the interface. We're going to run the report. It's going to output our little AI report. It's going to run the subflow. And it's going to do the same thing for YouTube. I built this one a moment ago. I'll show you it. Let's run the whole thing to see what a report looks like, right? And I know that folks really like to see the prompts. Let me see if I can drop that into the chat. Maybe it's too big. It's too big. I'll have to figure out a better way to share prompts with you than in the chat, but you'll definitely have access to the template. So let's run. This might take a few minutes to run. As it's running, we're going to build other things. Okay, so what are some questions? So JP has the question, is smooshing doing a summary analysis? Not quite. So we have a whole course about smooshing, about working with lists that I highly recommend, which talks about when do you loop and when do you smoosh. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. Highly, highly recommend. So essentially, what you need to know in Gumloop is that you see I have a list of videos. I passed that list into extract data, and that went into loop mode. The reason is because, let's say I have 10 videos. I want 10 URLs. So I need to loop over the extract data. Now, there are situations like here, I don't want 3 reports or 10 reports, one for each video. I want one report for all videos. So I need to turn the list into text so it does not loop. This will make a lot of sense if you join a Gumloop cohort where I spend a lot of time talking about this. We have a whole course. Really, this is one of the key principles of when do you loop and when do you smoosh. Once you understand that, Gumloop is, the world is your oyster, as I like to say. So let's look at the report it came out with. Right, so we see executive summary, positive brand mentions, key strengths, negative brand mentions. No one has anything negative to say about Gumloop, obviously. So we have this AI-generated report, outputted in Markdown, and we can do this for any query. That's the amazing thing. We've built this now and we can replicate this across any search in TikTok. Okay, so now we have our little piece of, functionality here. What it does, takes a query, returns a report. That's awesome. So I'm going to call this TikTok video analysis or report. Okay. So remember, our goal is to build this little interface that anyone in our team can go, put a query, get a report. So I'm going to build another flow. I'm clicking here and I'm going to call this report generator. So what does this do? This takes as input an interface. We're going to have to build that. Then it goes to that TikTok report, taking the query, runs the report, and it runs the YouTube report, which I'll show you in a moment, which I built before the live stream. Exact same principle of what we just built, and outputs the report for each and goes into Google Docs. So how do I add this type of functionality? This is using an interface. So I click add an interface in the top left, and this gives me a kind of input that folks can use on our team to be able to input information into a flow. Now, often you're building things for your colleagues, like a meeting generator or going into Salesforce or different place, and you don't necessarily want them messing around in the underlying flow. So we're going to add the query. So query to search. We can add a little bit of description here. So let's say this is what we'll search for in TikTok and YouTube. And that's pretty much it. That's all we need. You could also do an email where we'll send the report. You can do, number of videos you want to grab. We can do all that. Happy to answer how do we make this a little more personalized. But let's try to get into something that looks good really quickly. Let me do here. Let me come back. So now we have this query to search. This is this right here. Let me save that. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take whatever is here. I'm going to use Gumloop as an example, as always. I wanted to change to run this thing that we built. I wanted to go here, replace this value, and get me the report. Now, in Gumloop, any of these flows, right, that we've already built can be reused in other flows. That's really the beauty here, is that once you've built something that you like, anyone on your team or you yourself can repurpose it. And that means that any kind of thing that you're building can be reused multiple times. So we're going to go here, we're going to go into subflows, and we see TikTok video report, the thing we just built. What does this do? It takes a query as input that lives here, query to search, like that, and it outputs the TikTok report, right? Now, what do we want? We also want this video analysis. Same thing. Takes a query, goes to YouTube. Now, YouTube also gives me the transcript. So that's what I'm using to run the report, right? So I'm just using the transcripts from all the videos and I'm running a report, and this outputs a YouTube report. So just like before, I can use YouTube video analysis. So I'm passing in here, query to search. That's going to go ahead and go to YouTube. And I want the output of each one of these to go into Google Doc. Nothing simpler. Let's go into Google Docs. Google Docs Writer. I want to create a new Google Doc for every analysis. I'm going to pass that in. So title, we're going to say your search report for, and I want to put the query, what the person is searching for. That's coming from the interface. So query to search. And now the content. The content, well, first is going to be the YouTube report. Actually, let's put TikTok first. Backspace. Let's do YouTube report. We can also probably do some headings. And the content format is markdown. I asked the AI to write markdown. And let's output the URL. So output is what the user will see when they submit the form. So I'm going to say your report. The output of a Google Doc is the link. There we go. So now we format that. What does this do? It takes a query, runs the TikTok video report, runs the YouTube video report, grabs both of those, puts them into a Google Doc, returns the URL to the user so that they can go see the report. You can also add an email, a Slack message, really up to you. We are almost done this flow. So if you have questions about how we can take this further or anything like that, drop them into the chat. Happy to answer. We're going to spend a little about 15 minutes at the end. Happy to answer any questions. So if I save this, let's run the whole thing. Let me open the interface, copy the URL, bam. And let's use Gumloop as a start. And actually, let me do one last thing. Let me cache the response. That way we get a response a little faster if we need to run it again. Great. Let's run for Gumloop. Now, this is going to take a few minutes to run, unless it's cached. I don't think it'll be cached. So I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions. So there's some question around pricing, around how much Gumloop costs. Starter, we are working on some new plans, so stay tuned for that. Great. Any questions? Going to make sure. So are there templates for Gumloop? Absolutely. You can go to gumloop.com/templates. We have a bunch of examples of how you can use Gumloop in your day-to-day. And if you want to contribute some, please let me know. We'd love to have your templates in here as well. So let me go back to here. So for folks who are like, oh, I want to keep learning Gumloop, we have Gumloop University, which I mentioned. We also have cohorts every 2 weeks, which is a 1-week session with me, where we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where I teach you all the basics of Gumloop. So let me drop the link. I'm also going to include it into our session. So let me drop that. Boom. This is the moment where, here, let me grab that URL. There we go. So there's a question. Let me grab some. Do you have a creator program? Yes, we do. So if you want to be a Gumloop creator, we call them advocates. We do have that, and we're working to make it better. So please let me know. There's a gumloop.com/advocates. So there's a question, how might you format the Google Doc output? This is a great question. Let me jump back into here. Let me see where we're at. We're still waiting. We can see that it's running. Actually, if we want to see a little better where it's running, we can go to refresh here, and we see that it's running, right? I can even click in and see where it's at in the flow. This is very useful if you're a nervous live streamer like myself. So it's running the TikTok video report, and it's already done on the YouTube. So there's a question, how do we, the formatting, how do we get the format? This is such a great question. So a lot of folks hesitate to specify formatting in the prompts. So you'll notice if I go back to my TikTok video report, I asked it at the end, output the report as markdown. Now, I'm giving it broad indications of markdown. Now, if you have a specific format that you want, you can say, hey, I want these 4 headings, or I want this HTML format. The AI is actually exceptionally good at doing that. So what I always recommend is you may want to have one node that creates the report, and then potentially another node that formats it. So you could give it specific formatting instructions, whether that's HTML, if you're sending an email, or Markdown, or sections that you want. Really, really encourage you to play around with the prompt to get the format that you want. And AI, in my experience, has been really, really good at doing that. And you can pick various models as well. So sometimes it's more efficient from a credit perspective and from a time and a usage perspective to split into 2 different prompts. Or you might want to say, hey, let's use something really advanced like O3, which will give you both of those together, but has a smaller context window. Great. So there's a question, can I create document tabs in Google Docs? I do not believe so. I think that's a limitation of Google Docs' API, where tabs cannot be created. So that's a question from JP. Yeah, so let me see where we're at in the flow. And then, oh, okay, we're done. So let me go back to my interface. So we have the report. It took 2.5 minutes. So maybe it was done for a little bit there. We can open it. And now we have our report. Amazing. Automatically. And we can run this on a schedule. We can have it prompted. We can change to have more videos. So right now it's only running for a few, but you can run 10, as many as you want. So yeah, we've built our flow. Let me walk through it, and then I'm going to go through all the questions. So what does this flow do? Very simply, it has an interface where anyone can enter any query, any search. He goes to TikTok, searches for that, grabs the video, returns an AI-generated report, does the same thing for YouTube, and then brings both of those together in a Google Doc. Now, this is just the beginning, right? You can analyze sentiment across different social media channels, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, really up to you where you take this. And I'd love to kind of, as you're building let me just turn on the lights again. Really got to get that fixed. Hopefully, there we go. As you're building, I'd love to know what you built. So let me know in the comments how you're using the different Apify connectors that we have. If you have ideas of what you'd like me to see me build every week, please, again, use the comments or the chat. I really, really love coming out here and building some cool stuff for you guys, but I would love it even more if it's what you want me to build. So please let me know. And as I mentioned, gumloop.com/university to continue learning. We have all the webinars. We have all the cohorts and different courses to get you started on Gumloop and automating your workflows. So let's ask the questions. Let's get into the questions now. Okay, so there's a ton of questions. So if I don't answer, just keep dropping it into the chat. I'm pretty good at finding them. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. So JDP asks, we can now go to the interface. Yeah, you never need to worry about this page again, right? So let's do Figma. It might take a few minutes to run. But really now you can be your competitors. You can also, if you want, as an example, maybe you want to run this on a schedule. So instead of the interface, you can rebuild, instead of the interface, just have an input right here, and then just run this every morning or every week, create a time trigger. So every week at 9 a.m. So now it would run this flow every week at 9 a.m. So any kind of structure that you want is possible. Cool. So Son asks, can you do a workflow where a form submission, MCP scans the form content, checks whether or not it's spam? If it isn't, it sends the form to the client. Absolutely, right? How I would do this, you would have either a webhook to, let me start from a new flow. You would have a webhook input, or if the form is like this. And there's a few ways you can do whether it is spam or not. You can ask AI. You can use Apollo to see whether this is a real email. You can look at the description, right? Often it's like spammy. They'll tell you like, oh, I'm here to give you whatever. And then based on the output of that, you can use an if else or a filter node or our new router node, which I should cover in a future stream, future webinar, which routes it to different places. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. So Travis asks, can we ask Gummy to create an HTML format? Absolutely. Right? So I don't even think you need to tell Gummy or ask Gummy. So yes, in my original prompt, you could totally ask it to create HTML, but I think just generating as HTML would be as simple as, so what I like to do, if we go here, so output the report as HTML, make it pretty, right? So you can say like, make it pretty with clear sections, with different colors. You can even say, hey, I really like this type of email, and paste some HTML into it. And the AI will be good enough to be able to generate your HTML. Now, pro tip here, if you do that, in the report generator, if you go to Google Docs, you can output as HTML, right? So if you're expecting HTML, make sure that you selected this. So it renders that HTML in Google Docs. Particularly useful also if you're sending an email. So I have a lot of emails that are auto-generated using AI that analyze different things, and they're sent in HTML, so they look really nice in my inbox. Cool. So Travis says, that turned out pretty good, actually. Yes, surprisingly good. And it's only, we didn't even tell it what we wanted specifically, right? So it does a really, really good job of even creating tables. Initially, I was also a little skeptical of having AI generate kind of draft reports for me. But as I've been working more with it, it does a pretty good job. And what's great is you can go back into your flow and analyze what happened, right? So you can go to the flow and see, okay, what was each video? What was the analysis of each one? And do I agree, right? So you have that traceability through what happened. Okay. So question, what other connectors do you have apart from the APs, which I imagine is Apollo and Apify? Many, right? So highly encourage you to check out Google Ads. I think SEMrush, HubSpot. So you can use SEMrush reports, which we'll be covering next week when we talk about automating blog posts. So many options here. Google search, web scraping. So really, we want to give you one subscription for all of these, right? So you don't need a SEMrush account. You don't need an Apify account. You don't need an OpenAI account. Really, everything is included and giving you the access to all of this information. Now, remember, in Gumloop, when you're running or sending information from one application to another, like Google Sheets, that's not costing you credits. We only charge you credits when we are charged credits, when you're going out to third party or to AI models. Cool. Great. So could I use the same process to collect sentiment and actual quotes from comments on TikTok, YouTube, Shorts? Yes, absolutely. So fun fact, there's a whole gumloop.com. Let me just search for blog Webflow Gumloop. So how I joined Gumloop, my first use case with Gumloop was when I worked at Webflow, where we analyzed the sentiment across social media. And the question I would ask is, does a human need to respond to this specific social media post? And I would have AI kind of read through every post and say, do I need to respond, yes or no? And this cut down on a lot of support because we were able to find the specific people who needed help amongst thousands of notifications a day. We actually have a whole course dedicated to this use case. It's one that's very dear to my heart. So social media monitoring, which both walks you through the basics of Gumloop and how to implement this specific use case. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat. Here we go. Oops, I think I broke the link. 1 second. There you go. Let me delete the message before. Okay. Where are we in the questions? How are we doing? So we don't have, there's a question on Figma. We don't have a Figma integration. I just used it to see what people were saying about Figma online. Oh, and the formatting broke. Oh, here we go. Executive summary. Oh, so I think it ran before when I changed the prompt. That's okay. We have an executive summary, and it's talking about Figma. Very similar structure to our previous one. Cool. Great. So question from JDP. What am I most excited about? Gumloop. What I'm most excited about is seeing what you all build. Really, I know it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm just so excited whenever someone builds something that I'm like, oh my God, someone used Gumloop for that? That's amazing. So I encourage you all to play around, build. We're always happy to provide credits and help you out with free support throughout. And features-wise, if that's really your question, I'm really excited when we're going to start allowing AI to help you build flows in a more end-to-end fashion. So today you can ask Gummy for help around your flow, and it'll guide you through. But we're hoping in the near future to be able to say, hey, just build this flow for me, right? Where you prompt to flow. We currently have prompt to node for a lot of our nodes, and that's been extremely impactful. And we can't wait to do that also for whole flows. So that's what I'm most excited about. Great. So question from JP, can Gumloop create a visual HTML report that is based on dynamic answers from a quiz and assessment? Sure. You submit the answers, and if you have a specific format that you want the report to be sent, you can absolutely do that. So we have some clients that are educational and create these types of reports, either for creating the questions or the answers. You can do all of that in Gumloop. As long as you can imagine step by step, if you can build something that imagines step by step what you want it to do, right? So reads the responses, goes to AI with a specific format and the answers or the analysis and the data, just like we did, and generates that report. That is definitely possible as well. Cool. Can it use to delete Gmail? So there's a question, can we manage email? Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a Google, an email MCP. So we have a Gmail MCP, right? Now note, this is actually really important. When you're building an MCP node, this prompt only understands the tools that are here. So it can read an email, send an email, create a draft, forward, archive, trash. It cannot say, is this spam? That is for an AI node, right? So this could be like, hey, I'm going to read the emails from today. That it can do. Then you could have a secondary node, like a next node in your flow that says, is this spam? Is this marketing? And then you can have a archive node. Very important that MCP nodes only have access to these, right? Understanding those are the tools, those are the things that it can use to generate the code. So if you ask it to summarize your emails, it's not going to do a good job because it doesn't have this concept of summarizing. That is another node in your flow. Cool. Okie dokes. Great. Okay. So there's a question around how can you identify, a YouTuber who posts multiple times. So in the way you prompt, right, your Apify, you can specify filters. So for instance, in YouTube allows you to search by hour, by day, by week, by month. So you can run this flow, say every day. Or you can also, I'm doing a search. If you have a specific YouTuber, you'll change your prompt to say, hey, grab videos from this specific YouTuber. And the node will write the code for that and grab that information. Now, the things you have access to, again, coming back to this idea of MCP or tools, I should say, go here. So let's click, let me remove some stuff just so we're seeing MCP tools. These are the different things you can do using the Apify YouTube actor in Gumloop. Now, I'm also realizing last week, you all voted for dark mode and I've been doing light mode. So I'm very sorry about that. Next live stream will be fully in dark mode. Great. So there's create a workflow for topic research with SEMrush. We're going to do that next week. We have, let me go find it. Gumloop.com. I'm going to drop the link if you want to join us. We're going to be talking about automate your blog post workflows. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. Great. Where we're going to be automating to your first draft, formatting, tone and voice, figuring out what to talk about. We're going to cover that same place right here on the YouTube Wednesday next week. Yeah. Great. Topic research. Awesome. Fantastic. What's the best way to change the query because it's a common word for the brand? That's a tough one. That you'll really have to, you can have, actually, no, not so tough. What's funny is that what you can do in the flow, you can probably have AI assess whether it's about the brand or just a generic kind of assessment. Now, note, you're probably going to get a bunch of videos, right, that aren't related. So that's a little bit risky in how you build this workflow. But maybe what you can do is, instead of analyzing with AI each video, first have a pass of whether this is a YouTuber that usually mentions that brand. There's a few ways you can architecture something that makes sense there. Cool. Okay. Whew, that was a lot. Really appreciate all of you joining. That's it for me this week. I'll be back next week for Automate Your Blog Post Workflows. We're going to get to a first draft, doing things like research, reporting, tone and voice. Really hope to see you there. Really appreciate all of you joining. And if you're watching back, yeah, please let me know in the comments what you'd like us to cover in the future, what you've built with Gumloop. Really appreciate all of your time. And yeah, that's it for me this week. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you back here next week. Bye, everyone.